Well, my next guest had to discover what he values the hard way. Watch this.
I'm Tom Stern, and I'm an incredibly lucky guy.
Okay, love you.
Bye, sweetie.
I've got an unbelievable wife. She's beautiful, she's smart, she's strong. 2 incredible kids. And I almost lost it all because I was a workaholic who never thought about his family. And ironically, it was a tragedy that almost took my family from me that made me rediscover them. 5 years ago, I was at home and I happened to come out and hear screams as my wife had just come back into the garage with our daughter. Turned out they'd been ambushed by 2 robbers. I didn't know that. Opened the door, a guy put a gun to my head. My little girl asked me, "Daddy, what's going on?" And then I saw my wife being punched in the face repeatedly by the other robber.
Before the home invasion, Tom was very self-centered. Really, whatever worked for him was the best thing. It was really hard for him to put the family first or anybody else's needs first. When I was beaten up, when half of my face was crushed in, he was really unavailable to me.
I was raised by this incredibly driven family. My great-grandfather was the chairman of Sears Roebuck. My father had led the cable TV industry in the 60s, and I was a kid with ADD who wet his bed and was hyperactive, so I wasn't exactly the heir apparent. Yet somehow I had in me this gene, this I've got to be a superstar gene. Tom Stern, Falling Up Entertainment. And later in life, when I finally found an avenue where I could be highly successful, I milked it for every ounce of power that I could. And I did it, sadly, at the neglect of my family. Right after that horrific moment, it was as if my whole world had been smashed into a million pieces. And as I started to put them back together, I knew I didn't want to put them back together the same way. I felt like I have to change. If it weren't for this tragedy, I wouldn't have rediscovered the most important thing in my life, my family.
There's been a dramatic change since then. He's really able to look at what's best for the family rather than just what's good for him.
Yeah, right!
Hey, way to go! He's able to spend more time with the kids. He's really forged a great bond with both these kids.
Now I know what's most important in my life, and it's my family.
Wow, what a story. We've got, we have them with us. Please welcome the creator of the CEO Dad comic strip and the author of CEO Dad, How to Avoid Getting Fired by Your Family. We have Tom Stern along with his wife Lisa and their beautiful daughters Alexandra and Ariana. You were really honest. How many years did you have a workaholic husband?
Ooh, I think it probably started about 15 years ago, about 10 years.
And
before.
I mean, you said right out loud that he was self-centered and selfish.
It was tough. It was really tough because I think he was really driven to achieve both sort of fame in his career, monetary success. He was very focused.
What was he like after this break-in?
Well, just to give you a little taste that we had tickets to the 2002 Olympics about a month afterwards. And I think it had been so intense for him, this situation, that he went without us. He went ahead and took that break, got away from us, went with friends, as I was still recovering at home.
I think what Lisa was trying to illustrate about me going to the Olympics is, rather than making this a complete fairy tale, I changed after the attack, but it wasn't completely immediate.
Okay.
It was a process. I was shocked. I recognized that I had certainly almost lost something unbelievably precious to me.
You said your whole world was just
Yes.
smashed, was the word you used.
True, but implementing real change, where I became a different person who was more caring, more involved, that took the next 2 years, really. I mean, it didn't happen overnight. I had to begin to really examine who I was. So, see, I have a theory, although it should probably only apply to me, maybe it applies to others, that a lot of workaholics are avoiding their family. and that the intimacy and what we think of as just a wonderful thing makes them uncomfortable on some level. And I think that was, to a degree, true of me. And I loved my family, and I loved the idea of family, but hanging out, playing, spending a lot of time, relaxing, it was a foreign experience to me. And as most things that are foreign, you know, they create a little bit of discomfort. And so I really had to re-examine the whole way I lived my life, and that did take time.
Don't you think that personal ground zeros really do that? They strip us down buck naked, and then we slowly but surely start saying, oh, that wasn't serving me well, that wasn't working, what was I thinking?
Yeah.
2 years. Okay,
Yeah.
now we're going on to another situation. You got cancer.
Yes, I was diagnosed with breast cancer about 3 years ago, and the difference of those 2 years was dramatic because Tom was completely there for me.
Oh my gosh.
Because I have a certain genetic makeup, we opted for a bilateral mastectomy with reconstruction, and of course I had a lot of feelings about that, and Tom just held me and held my feelings and let me have whatever experience I was going to have about that, and it was truly priceless, and I don't mind having lost that to have gained something else. And Alexander was amazing through all of it, both things.
Have you seen a change in your daddy recently, like the last 2 years?
You know, it's kind of weird for me to say not really, because I have been I was protected from knowing that they were going through the stuff that they were going through.
In our marriage.
So
But I pointed out to her, she was saying not really, I said, do you know that in the old days, and she didn't remember this, when we were at dinner and I'd get a phone call, I'd leave and be gone for 15 minutes. And she was like, really? Because now sometimes I let it ring, or if it's a call, I'll pick it up and say, I'm at dinner, I can't talk now. And that's a big change, one that she's just not aware of because she doesn't remember how I used to be so work obsessed.
Who are you and what have you done with our dad? I'm going to ask you how you would define success. In this show, we're talking about the many different definitions of success, because back then, it was about, I love what you said about workaholics being afraid of intimacy. Intimacy is into me, you see, and I'd love to do a whole show on workaholics and have psychiatrists here, but
Sure.
I want to hear from you now what you think the definition of success is.
Well, one is looking at my little daughter right now, waving at people in the audience. That's pretty cute. But I would say there was a moment, actually, a couple months ago. It was last summer. We were at the beach. We spent a couple days in Laguna. And I was relaxing on the beach. And I kind of am a scaredy cat of the ocean. It's just too cold. I don't know. I always say, let's go to the beach, and then I never go in. But so I was sitting there, and it was almost too perfect. The three of my girls in my life were walking into the water, and there was sun shining literally directly on them, a strip of light, and I'm looking straight out at the three of them with their arms around each other, and I go, I'm the luckiest guy in the world. That's my life. So that's success.
I'm happy for you. May you have many moments of living fully in the moment. And I'm very proud of you, and I think you're very lucky that your mommy and daddy have taught you such important lessons so early in life.
Yes.
Do you want to say bye to everybody? Do you want to wave bye to everybody?
Bye.
Thanks again for being with us, Tom and Lisa.
Thank you.
Thank you.